Do you ever think about what it takes to get back on your feet after losing a spouse or other loved one? Loss can be too much to bear at times, and the idea of getting better can seem impossible. Today's video will talk about 3 important points that can help you get over a terrible loss and do well in your golden years. We'll talk about real-life stories and useful tips from people who have been there. I want you to stay until the end. Before we begin, I want to invite you to stay until the very end. I'll be sharing one special tip that could bring a bit more joy or clarity into your day. It's something small but powerful. If you feel a connection here, please click like, subscribe, and turn on the bell to stay in touch with everything we share. And if you're here with me, drop a message in the comments. I'm here and grateful. It helps me know we're walking this path together. Life is full of doubt and fear because we live in a world that isn't always stable. Life's path is like a complicated tapestry. It has happy times, sad times, and turns and twists you didn't see coming. The amount of time a loved one will stay by your side is completely unknown. A wise man named Miyazaki Hao said that life is like a train ride. The people you meet and love can only ride with you for a certain amount of time before they have to get off. Remember to treasure the times you spent together. One of the best things about traveling is being with someone else the whole time. Unfortunately, not everyone is lucky enough to meet their soulmate when they're young and stay in touch with them until they die. It is possible for loved ones to die too soon because they are sick, hurt, or something unexpected happens. People often feel like their life is falling apart and they have no one to lean on after the death of a spouse. It can be hard to fill the empty space that has been made. Even though it's sad, time moves on, and the truth is that the dead can't come back. After a terrible loss, it's very important to heal and move on with purpose and honor. These 3 experienced people have been through it all and can help people who have lost a spouse. Friends in their middle and later years can learn how to gracefully move on from each other's stories, which makes them feel better and happier in their later years. They say there are 3 very important things you shouldn't do after your spouse dies. You should have a lot more fun in your later years if you can avoid these problems. The most important thing is to not let long-term sadness take over your life. Having kids can't help some people get over the loss of a long-term partner who dies too soon. You might feel stuck when your partner takes up all of your space. When you feel this deep void, you might want to hold on to the past and fight the urge to move forward. Feel free to say something in the comment section below the video if this helped you learn something. For example, Ms. Lee, who is now 67 years old, lost her husband when she was 60. Prior, she clearly remembers how hard it was for her to accept his death right after it happened. In the beginning, Ms. Lee felt like she was just going through the motions of life. She was stuck in a downward spiral of hopelessness, where nothing seemed to have any meaning. Sometimes, she thought about joining him because she was so sad. Every night, as she lay alone in the bed they used to share, the harsh truth of her separation would hit her hard. The bed, which had once represented their togetherness, now felt more like a reminder of her loneliness, which made her sadness even worse. Her nightmares about the space next to her would keep her up at night, crying herself to sleep. By looking at old pictures of them being happy together, Ms. Lee had to face a hard truth. Images of smiles and happiness started to make her think again about her grief. It occurred to her that her late husband would not have wanted her to be sad all the time. Knowing that tears would not bring him back on their own, he understood. Although she was sad, Ms. Lee was determined to keep living to honor his memory. As she tried to find a balance between grieving and moving on, she wanted her husband's spirit to rest in peace. She eventually reached a deep understanding through this process. Although being apart from someone after they've died is one of the worst things that can happen, the person who died is gone, and those who are still alive have to keep living. If you want to let a loved one who has died rest in peace, You should focus on the present and the possibilities for the future, not the happy times and sweet memories of the past. Loving the present and anticipating the future is a tribute to the life and love that was shared, and a way to honor the memory of those who have died. Keeping calm is very important when your spouse isn't around. Feel better first by taking care of your health and comforting yourself. Maintain a clear mind and don't let your grief take over completely. Spend some time changing the way you think, slowly gaining your confidence, and work toward living a strong and independent life. Focus on self-care as you move forward. Take time to feel better, eat when you're hungry, and sleep when you can. Simple pleasures like walking through the park or the streets should be enjoyed. Do not rely too much on other people for support. Instead, learn to find comfort in being alone with grace and wisdom, which will help you grow your inner world. Take time to enjoy and think about your life, just like you might savor a nicely aged wine. Maintain contact with friends, have deep conversations, and enjoy your own company even when you feel lonely. You can make your later years enjoyable and fulfilling even without your spouse by finding happiness and fulfillment in the activities you do by yourself. Secondly, you should try not to put too much on your children for the rest of your life. The people you care about most in your old age are your children, since you no longer have a spouse. Many older people think about moving in with one of their children because they think it will give them the most support and comfort in their later years. However, it's important to remember that today's teens and young adults often prefer to live on their own and may not want to move in with their elderly parents. This reluctance isn't just about having different ways of living. It also includes having different ideas about what to buy and how to raise children. People who are elderly and still grieving the death of a spouse might think it is their duty as parents to be there for them 24 hours a day or temporarily house them. But it's important to remember that younger people have their own families and may not be aware of the stresses and duties that come with that right away. When kids are told to put their parents' needs before their own, it can be hard for them to balance their goals and responsibilities. This can put stress and strain on their own lives, which could hurt their health and relationships without them meaning to. So, it's normal to want help from people you care about, but it's also important to learn how to be independent and rely on yourself. These skills will help you and your kids keep a healthy, balanced relationship, which will help everyone do well, even though getting older and losing loved ones can be hard. Mrs. Howe, who is 65 years old, talked about her life after her husband died and how difficult it was to plan her living arrangements with her family. After her husband died, she first moved in with her daughter. She thought such an arrangement would be a natural extension of the way she always thought parents and children should help each other. Mrs. Howe thought it was only right for her daughter to be there for her and help her in her later years, since she had spent so much time raising her daughter and taking care of her family. However, this expectation proved to be unfulfilled. Over time, Mrs. Howe noticed that her daughter and son-in-law were becoming more distant and unhappy with her. Even though they were willing to work with her at first, things started to change. Mrs. Howe had a hard time with the change because she had never imagined living alone again. She dreamed of a time when she and her husband would age together and share the blessings and challenges of old age. She had to handle life on her own after her husband suddenly got sick and died. At first, Mrs. Howe was glad that her daughter, who is now a mother herself, suggested that she move in with them and retire. The birth of her grandson made her feel better, and she enjoyed helping with chores around the house and taking care of the baby. Mrs. Howe saw her grandson as a kind of rebirth and a comforting reminder of her late husband. She spent a lot of time and energy taking care of her grandson because she saw it as an important way to stay involved with her family. In spite of these efforts, Mrs. Howe's story shows how difficult it can be to find the right balance between dependence and independence in family relationships. Her story shows how important it is to handle these situations with care and understanding, realizing that family support is very helpful but also needs careful attention to everyone's wants and needs. In the beginning, her daughter and son-in-law gave her money every month to cover her living expenses. However, when she started getting her pension, they stopped giving her money. Because her grandson was getting bigger, her pension wasn't enough to meet the needs of the family of four. However, her daughter's responses were often impatient, even though she asked for more help many times. She would send her mother money every once in a while, but she often seemed to forget or ignore her needs. If this episode helped you learn something, please leave a thank you comment below the video's comments. Living together naturally led to a lot of fights, which were made worse by the age difference. They had gotten used to their new routine without her. When she got back to her own house, she originally felt lonely and like she had no purpose. Her simple life made her feel alone, and she had a hard time getting emotional support. But she quickly got used to being alone and started to enjoy it. She started painting and calligraphy classes again and joined community groups where she met people who liked the same things she did. Over time, her days got better and better. As she got used to her new life, she realized that the perfect retirement she had always dreamed of was right around the corner. She was happy having the freedom and time off she had been wanting since her husband died. She used to see living alone as a challenge, but now she sees it as a source of personal satisfaction and a reflection of her deepest desires for freedom and happiness, and different points of view. The old woman often talked about how worried she was about her daughter's money and her grandson's schooling. She believed that children required strict rules from an early age, while her daughter and son-in-law advocated for greater independence. Their relationship slowly fell apart because they had different ideas. The daughter and son-in-law stopped being as polite and respectful with her, which showed that they were growing apart. The old woman finally chose to leave her home and live on her own again. When she told her daughter that she wanted to go back to her own house, her daughter felt both happy and sad. It was clear that they were glad to have one less thing to worry about, even though they would miss her. When her grandson was younger, they needed help, but now it wasn't as important. Third, you should be careful when thinking about finding a new partner or getting married again. There is some truth to the idea that second marriages are often dangerous, but not all the time. People over 65 who are starting new relationships face special problems because they have deeply ingrained habits and ideas that they have had for decades. As people get older, it can be difficult to form a sincere and harmonious relationship because everyone has their own expectations and preferences. It can be very difficult to deal with loneliness and worry about the future after the death of a spouse. It's normal to want to find someone to share your life with and get support from. However, remarriages between older people come with their own set of problems and risks. It can be hard to find a partner who is both caring and a good fit, and deciding too quickly or without giving it much thought could cause many problems in the future. Let us look at the story of Mrs. Fong, who is 62 years old. She got married again 3 years after her first husband died when she was 53. But their second marriage ended in divorce within a year. She is still hurt and frustrated when she thinks about her second marriage. She told Bears her story to warn others who might be thinking about getting married again later in life. Going on trips with her husband to make up for lost time was something Mrs. Fong had planned to do when she retired. Sadly, her husband got sick and died before he could retire, leaving her to deal with a lot of grief. During this sad time, her son, who was worried about her health, suggested that she move in with him. Mrs. Fong appreciated that he cared, but she didn't want to bother him and his family because they were busy. Then, her son suggested that she join a senior travel group to feel better. Mrs. Fong didn't want to put more stress on him, so she chose to go to a dance and poetry class by herself. She met her second husband, Mr. Lau, in this class. At first, they were just acquaintances. It wasn't until later that their friendship turned into something more. Mrs. Fong's story shows how important it is to think carefully about the decision to get married again. It's natural to want to be with someone, but it's important to know how hard it can be to start a new relationship later in life. Taking the time to think about your needs and the problems that might come up can help you avoid making hasty choices that could make the next few years harder. Mrs. Fong hurt her ankle one day when she was going down the stairs. Mr. Liu stepped in right away to help her. He took her to the hospital and then took care of her at home while she was healing. Mr. Liu came by every day to help her, even though she couldn't go to her dance and poetry recitation class. They became closer, and their bond grew stronger because of this. After 2 months, Mr. Liu asked Mrs. Fong to marry him, telling her how much he loved her and wanting to live together to help each other. The proposal pleased Mrs. Fong, but she chose not to decide right away. She wanted to talk to her son about it first. Her son wasn't against the idea, but he suggested that she meet Mr. Liu's family to learn more about them. Mr. Liu agreed right away, and that night, both families had dinner together. After the meeting, her son told her to wait and watch more before getting married. But Mrs. Fong didn't listen because she thought Mr. Liu would be a good partner. The next few days, they got married legally, and she moved in with Mr. Liu. Gratitude comments are welcome below the video. If this helped you learn something, please leave one. At first, they got along great, even though Mrs. Fong did all the chores around the house without complaining, because she had done them before. But things got tense when her old friends asked her to go on a trip with them. Mrs. Fong immediately agreed to go on the trip, but Mr. Liu didn't like it and was upset that no one would be able to do the housework while she was gone. Something about this made Mrs. Fong feel wrong. She wondered if she had just been hired to help. Mr. Liu made hurtful comments during the argument, implying that she was only useful for housework, which escalated the disagreement. This fight was the first time Mrs. Fong really thought about whether the marriage could work. When she got back from her trip, things got even worse. The son of Mr. Liu just got divorced and brought his grandson to live with them. At first, Mrs. Fong acted like she was her own child and took care of the child. It was hard, though, because the child was spoiled, picky about food, and prone to temper tantrums. After having a challenging time handling things, Mrs. Fong talked to Mr. Liu and told him that his son should be responsible for his child. "You're not my grandson's mother, so don't get in the way," Mr. Liu said angrily. "Don't get involved if you can't handle it." Mrs. Fong felt deeply wronged and let down by this response. She started to understand how complicated remarriage was at her age and how hard it was to get her new partner's family to accept her. Mrs. Fong decided to file for divorce after months of problems getting worse. Even though the process went pretty smoothly, it made her think about her situation. Even though it might be lonely to live alone, she decided it was better than the problem she was having with her second marriage. Through this hard journey, Mrs. Fong learned that having friends is nice, but that combining lives and families later in life can be hard in big ways. Thank you for seeing. We've talked about useful tips and true stories about thriving after losing a loved one. We've focused on how to deal with grief, how to avoid becoming too dependent on children, and the problems that can come up when you get married too quickly. What did this video teach you? We want to know what you think. We're grateful you spent this time with us. If you felt even a bit inspired, we warmly welcome you to subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss what's coming next. Your presence matters. Here's something magical. Share your age in the comments. By doing so, you're telling the universe, "I'm here, I'm growing, and I'm ready for more life." It's a small act with powerful energy. Take care, stay hopeful, and remember, your journey still has so much to offer.